readers of Reddit. r/AskReddit. Has anyone ever challenged you to something you are an expert at without them knowing it? If so, how did it turn out for them or you? I once had a guy at a party try to lecture me about a particular topic. He quoted a paper about the topic, and tried to explain it to me. I told him he was interpreting the sentence wrong, and he started belittling me for being too stupid to understand the topic, including calling other people over to witness my embarrassment. I stopped him, and asked him who wrote the paper he was quoting. He didn't know, so I made him look it up on his phone. Turns out, to his great embarrassment, he was quoting me, and was trying to explain to me what I meant in my own paper. I let him try to stammer his way out for a few minutes, then gave him my card and told him that he could call me if he ever wanted to fix his ignorance. It could have been worse. It could have been at an interview. My dad, who was a reasonably senior engineer, likes to tell the story once when his boss, who is one of the foremost experts in the field, was interviewing this one applicant. Since the field is very technical, the topic of papers or publications was invariably brought up. So this interviewee began naming papers he wrote and starts to discuss them. Little does he know, the original author of the papers he is quoting is the person sitting across the table interviewing him. I was at the gym at work, and there's a fit-looking older guy running on the treadmill. There's also another guy there wandering around, not really working out but trying to talk to everyone and offer advice. What is it with guys thinking girls need help in the gym, just being a pest in general? He wanders over to the guy running and starts asking him what he's training for. Running guy answers, "Ultramarathon in a few weeks." Annoying guy is impressed, but jokingly says, "Will you win?" Running guy, "Probably." Annoying guy, "Oh, ha ha ha, yeah, you've always got to be positive, right?" Running guy, "Well, I've won it for the last 3 years and the closest person to me was 15 minutes behind me, so yeah, I'm pretty positive." I surreptitiously checked out his name on the sign-in register and went back to my desk to Google him. Yep. Multiple records for ultramarathons, 24-hour road and treadmill races, 48-hour treadmill races. So I enter a round-robin pool competition in Cairns, Australia. At this point in my life I look, well, a little scraggly. I'm also a bit more than half pissed, and my first match is against this very snazzily dressed bloke with slicked back hair who proceeds to screw his very expensive cue together as I sit on the bar stool nursing a jug of beer with a mate, the shitty house cue resting up against the table. This guy has clearly watched The Color of Money a number of times, and arrogance wafts off him like so many dollar bills from an easy mark. Now, I'm not the best pool player in the known universe, but I did get my own pool table as my 10th birthday present, and I played that shitty war ducker every single day for years. I then spent most of my life from 16 to 21 playing pool in bars in New Zealand. So, you know, I'm alright. So, anyway, Tom Cruise over here makes eye contact for the first time and I say hello and compliment him on his rather nice cue. He responds by saying, "Don't worry buddy, I'll go easy on ya." Coin flip, it's my break. I down the rest of my beer and sink 2 off the break, and proceed to have a dream run. I'm in that wonderful place between slightly buzzed and rather pissed where everything just feels right, and I'm sinking every shot with perfect weight and spin to bring the white into position for the next shot. 5 down, 6, 7. I'm on the black and Mr. Shark over here with the attitude hasn't had a shot. The shot is actually not that hard, and being one of those perfect moments, I carpe diem by lining it up and then look up at him to lock eye contact as I hit the white, watch the black drop in my peripheral vision, smile and nod. My mate, meanwhile, is pissing himself laughing. Old mate doesn't even shake my hand, walks out of the hall without saying a word. Drank too much beer afterwards and didn't win the comp. In the Marine Corps they do a lot of wrestling or grappling as training and exercise. Well, for a Marine I was a pretty unimposing looking person. Little did they know that I had been doing jiu-jitsu, a form of grappling, for about 4 or 5 years before joining. So more than a few times I would have these big weightlifter, meathead types challenge me to grappling only for me to wipe the floor with them. It kind of became a joke once people caught on, and when we would get new guys to the unit, the guys in the know would trick them into grappling against me. At the county fair I was on the receiving end of some ill-natured heckling from a couple of farm hands. Real good hole boy types. They were being brickheads to everybody who signed up for the skid loader rodeo, smack-talking anybody with how tit-hot they are and how anybody else is just embarrassing themselves. For whatever reason they specially targeted me with their lame sorcerer Iowa smack talk. It got to the point where the one got on my face. To make a boring story short, I manage an agricultural business. All I do at said business is operate a skid street tractor. I won $10 and made a pair of brothers eat crow. I sort of did that. I was jokingly challenging my philosophy teacher with a 1-meter ruler, sort of like a sword. He grabbed a pointer and completely disarmed me. Apparently when he was at Oxford he had done fencing, and for quite a while after that. I had an athletic scholarship in college, I swam. But, after college, I went to graduate school, biochemistry, and proceeded to lose the swimmer physique. However, you don't lose technique. So, the wife and in-laws and I are at a resort in Puerto Rico one day, and I swam across the pool to meet them. And some guys started talking up their friend to go challenge me to a race. The dude came over, he was ripped, all eye candy, and challenged me to a race across the pool and back, and the loser had to buy the other group a round of drinks. There were about 8 of them and 4 of us. It was about 30 yards or so nearly a 50-meter freestyle, and I was a sprinter. In college I had a high 23 seconds time in the event. So, I agreed, and watch him swim and touch the other side. That's when I turned that mother ducker on, and underwater kick to a flip turn and then burst out beast mode on the return. I hit the wall when he was a little over halfway back. Needless to say, he bought us all a round of beers, and we actually ended up seeing them several times over the next week. He was a really cool dude, but was obviously really embarrassed. Now that I think about it, I hope either he or one of his friends are a Redditor and see this. Somebody challenged me to play a round of Age of Empires 2, medieval strategy computer game, against him. I used to play that game on a competitive level. So I just proceeded to play at roughly the same snail's pace speed he did, sometimes attack him with the weak armies to make it look like I'm struggling to beat him, while in reality 90% of my troops were tucked away hidden in the back of my lands. It was closed off arena map that made it really easy to hide them from him. So I continue to act like I'm struggling and slowly start to give in to his siege attacks, making it look he's actually going to win the game. At one point he asks in a victoriously smug voice, "So looks like the game is over, right?" To which I reply, "Looks like it." And before he could say anything else, roughly 100 fully upgraded elite Teutonic Knights emerged from my side of the fog of war and proceeded to annihilate everything in their path. His reaction was priceless. It went from complete disbelief, "Where are all those units from?" to denial, "You cheating gas hat," and various other emotions, while I just had a hearty laugh. Not an expert, but I was invited to a Christmas party last year. They had a dessert competition. Not very many people knew I'm going to college for culinary arts. Won unanimously. He told me that he wanted a rematch next Christmas. I'm taking my baking class this semester. Good luck, mister. If you crush someone at making dessert, of course they want a rematch. That means they get to eat your dessert again. My thoughts exactly. He just wants you to cook again for his party. I occasionally encounter anti-nuclear folks to try to converse with me about how nuclear energy is the worst thing that has ever happened to the world. What they don't know is that I have a master's degree in nuclear engineering. when I tell them, and then tell them that coal power releases more radiation into the atmosphere than nuclear, they tell me that I am biased and walk away. Was drinking with friends at a nightclub known for getting rowdy at times. Some guy and I bumped into each other. No one's fault, just the sort of spit that happens in a crowded and dark room. We both spill a few sips of our drinks. I'm just about ready to say no big deal and forget the entire event, but he flips off. Tells me I owe him another drink. No, I don't. He starts swearing at me. Telling me I need to buy him another ducking drink or he will just take all of my money and buy it himself. Typical story from anyone who's dealt with a dipspit drunk in a bar looking for a fight. I work security in a hospital. A big hospital with a busy ER and a psychology unit. We get in fights almost every other day. At least once a month, if not more, we get into a really good fight. I'm talking fighting some giant juice monkey on methamphetamines who's fighting like his life is on the line. We get 1 week, 40 hours, of fairly intense self-defense training per year, counter-strikes and takedowns mostly. So, this guy doesn't scare me. I tell him one last time to drop it and try to walk past him. He puts one hand on my chest and tries to grab for my wallet, probably assuming I'd fussy out and let him take it. I grabbed his hand, talked it around, jammed it up his back pretty hard, and gave him as hard a shove as I could in a crowded little room. Must have hurt his shoulder pretty good, but no actual damage would have been done. He stumbled a few steps away, and then slunk off without looking around. Late to reply, but years ago one of the goofiest friends of mine had a pair of those ducked-up teeth made by a dentist, so they looked extremely real and were extremely messed up. He would wear these and talk in a hillbilly drawl, acting pretty much functionally retarded. He could keep this act up for hours. In reality, he was a scratch golfer who had a full ride to a university with a nationally ranked golf team. He was wearing his teeth and scroungy clothes when playing a round of golf with a friend, and they had to pair with a couple of older CEO-type snobs who were wannabe Arnold Palmers. The older gentleman decided to take advantage of my friend for some easy money. Friend accepted and then convinced them to raise the wager to a more serious amount of money. It did not end well for the decked-out pair of CEOs. For the record, friend kept in character the entire time, leading the men to believe they got their asses kicked by an illiterate redneck. Edit, it would be so much funnier if I had a video. Now that I'm thinking about it, he looked and acted very much like Ben Stiller in Tropic Thunder when he was forced to act out Simple Jack in front of the enemy camp. Goodbye mama. Now you can have ice cream in heaven. I'll see you again tonight when I go to bed in my head movies. But this head movie makes my eyes rain. It never turns out well because I make vaccines for a living. People posting on Facebook, new parents discussing why they don't want to vaccinate their newborns, friends and relatives talking about the latest sensationalist story they heard on why Big Pharma is a terrible, evil conspiracy. I've been in the industry for 6 years now, have an education in chemical engineering. I've worked with live infectious diseases, primarily pertussis and polio. Been part of the manufacturing process from growing the bacteria, inactivation, lysing, purification, vial filling. Start to finish. I know how they work, what the history of how they used to be made is, how seriously pharma companies take adverse events, and I know firsthand how dangerous these diseases can be. But it doesn't matter because that picture that someone shared on Facebook with a sad story about their child dying obviously knows more than me. Even when I try to explain how it actually works, their eyes glaze over and nothing gets through. It's really frustrating having all the answers to every one of their concerns and not being able to reassure them because they're too stupid to understand basic biology. I bought a house and had a guy offer us a $20 Lowe's card to give us an in-home demonstration of water filtration technology. He came in, and set up, and started his spiel. He asked me what I do for a living, and I replied that I am a chemist at a water treatment plant. He stopped for a second, and said, "You probably know more about this stuff than I do." He then asked to talk with my wife, who refused. He packed up and left without continuing the demo.